Y'all, I hate to say it, but it's time to play catch up. What's up, guys? Pencil, and here we are to do a nice little discussion on how, when, and why should the rest of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse catch up to the strongest. And I don't think there's really any debate. I haven't seen any debate, but who knows? I know there's gonna be one contrarian in the comments who's like, well, actually, since Percival's a life spirit, he's gonna be the strongest character character, and thusly he's already transcended Lance, because he's kind of responsible for Lance living, because he's a life spirit, so obviously Lance can't be the strongest knight if Percy's a life spirit, and he's the strongest knight. Like, obviously there may be one of y'all, but like, I can't even out the hustle. But with that being the case, Lancelot, the strongest knight of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, when, how, why, where, what reason is the cast going to at least catch up to his level, if not surpass it? And if it's even possible for them to surpass him, considering how far he is. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to... Oh no. Do I not? Just kidding, y'all. You know I got it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. But the thing about Lancelot is that now he actually gets to have it on him and keep it on him at all times. Because you see, after a nice little conversation and bout with Nanashi, he gets a white deer. And it's a dull blade from Dabuzu. It's a sacred treasure. Like, let's just keep it a buck, y'all. This is a sacred treasure. It may be dull. It may legit just be, okay, none of those blades are dull, though. None of those blades are dull. But like, it may just look like a regular katana. But of course, you know, I ain't got no white deer, but I do got that. Like, it may just look like a regular katana. But this right here is a sacred treasure. Now, once again, I'll remind you, at a bare minimum, weapons infused with magic give your attacks a 10 times amp, if the magic is destructive type magic. That's a basic weapon. Like, hypothetically, if I were to infuse this, a basic weapon, with my magic, you know, I don't know, yapabology. Like, if I were to infuse my yap magic into this, then it would be 10 times stronger. But Dabuzu's weapons, sacred treasures, are completely different. Now, I've seen a various quantities, different types of amps they give. The lowest I've seen is like 30 for how much a sacred treasure gives you in comparison, just because like it should be at least 3 times as potent as the base state, because we see Mel transcend his demon mark level of damage, or what would be his demon mark level of damage the moment he gets Lost Vein, in comparison to Liz's gift sword, which breaks immediately against the Albion. That's the lowest I've seen. And of course, with the 10 times multiplier coming from infusing magic, you just put that 3 onto the 10, you get 30. I've seen like upwards of 1,000 times amps if you go with what King says literally about sacred treasures. How you can typically tap into about a cup's worth of your magic. Well, actually, no weapon is, I believe, like however much water from the lake Hawk could fit in his little trotters. Then, obviously, the full breath of magic that can be brought out from a regular weapon is about a cup, so that 10 times is only about a cup. And then a sacred treasure tier weapon is like a whole lake in comparison to the cup, in terms of how much raw power one can draw out. So Lance now has this. He now has that. So Lance, who was already pretty definitively, if you ask me, in terms of just raw stats, it's debatable on whether or not other characters can beat him, but in terms of just raw stats, I'd say he's the 3rd strongest character in the verse, probably. Only like maybe behind a full power King Mel. Like AM, Bloodlusted, Assault Mode Mel. Like, maybe that's the only thing, just because we don't know how powerful this Mel is. We just do not have the context on how powerful he's gotten, if he's as strong as before, if he's weaker than before. We have no context. We have no idea if he's surpassed, I don't know, maybe this variation of himself. We have no clue. So that's the one thing. But thanks to this statement from Big Nashi that we get in 125, where he just verbatim states that Arthur apparently verbatim stated, "Hey, bro, I ain't gonna lie. I heard you tussle with Arthur. He said you outclassed any seasoned warriors he's seen, from your intuition to your courage and strength." So, in terms of just raw power, Lance should just clear. He should just clear. He has the feats on Chaos King Arthur, to the point where Arthur gets a little bit shooketh. a little bit shivering in his booties. He begins to shudder at the mention of Lancelot's name. I'm kidding. Lancelot's flexing magic power. And also, Chaos, the thing that shouldn't have any reason to hold back, tries to smack Lance dead in the face because it feels it's a threat to Arthur's life. So Lance, at base, no magic flare, is already a threat to Arthur's life. This is easily plus combination with the statement from Nanashi. This is just easily like third strongest character in the verse tier. Clears any of the god tiers from the previous series. Just should, except for like Chaos themselves, including the deities. I know some people are gonna be like, well, maybe the deities, but even then, like, we never got to see a prime supreme deity, and even the prime demon king should fall beneath what Arthur has to offer. And since Lance is apparently some sort of threat to Arthur, and the prime demon king should fall lesser than Mel, I think it's quite clear that Lance stands pretty much unrivaled right now. So of course the question is, what about his contemporaries? What about the other people? What about the rest of the titular characters, the four knights of the Ababalaba? So the thing about Lance's current kit and his current raw level of strength is we don't have much context for it. I know a lot of people just say, well, Lance just had the potential, and then he went into the world beyond, and then he got trained on that potential, and then bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, and a lot of people are also assuming, just due to how his magic reflects in the name of it, from Hazy Moon to the overwhelming magic aura that resembles a certain lake that was juiced up with a whole bunch of 7 Sins tier magic multiplied upwards of, like, I think on panel about 32 times. Like, he could have absorbed that by going to the world beyond. A lot of people are assuming it was the Lady of the Lake. Regardless of what it is, Lance is where he is. Of course, I'm waiting with bated breath for Nakaba to actually give us context for why Lance is so inhumanely powerful. But context or no context, this is kind of just how it goes. So the question is, what about the rest of our casting crew? How are they supposed to reach this level? And should they even reach it within the time allotted to them? And by the time allotted to them, I mean the whole series. One thing I will say flat out and verbatim, I do not want them to catch up to him over the time skip. No, none of them. Even though characters such as Percy have a relatively good excuse, mainly because he's going to come back. Don't you fear. Percy will return and he shall be revered. But he's going to come back. So Percy, he's going to respawn. Soon enough. Sooner rather than later, most likely. That man will be back. I was about to make a joke there, but let me not. But he will return. Do not make him stronger than Lance, though. Simply don't. Even with all that life spirit training, even with all the different amps he could get in the afterlife, or the pseudo life, or the before life, or whatever you call that thing from Soul, regardless of all the different amps he could get and his insane potential, do not make him surpass Lance off screen in the time skip. Or even on screen if we get an explanation for it. In the realm, do not do that. Simply do not. Why? I don't want it. That would be kind of lazy. I don't want people to reach Lance level off screen. Another thing, same issue I have with Gawain getting so strong over time skip. Don't do it. What? Just don't do it. Because once again, the gap is so large. I'm going to make a proper video talking about where I think each of the Knights scale relative to the original series, give them like a specific tier placement, but just loose thoughts without going into any evidence or anything like that. I think you can make pretty solid arguments for Tristan, especially in Demon Mark, being Archangel tier. Like, I think there are pretty solid arguments, not off of this in particular, mainly just based off fighting Fuse Melegaland and like breathing in the same air as his father and or Arthur. I think there is definitely arguments to be made there. And even Gawain, you can definitely make arguments. If you take her statement about being able to stop Demon Mark Tristan at face value, then realistic, and being able to fight this fused demon. This is 6 demons of presumably a higher class fused together. A very similar case to Melegaland, and Gawain has clearly shown ability to react to, slam it around, do things with her full strength. So presumably from the Melegaland scaling, being able to damage it with Gawain on, like, basically running on empty and about to pass out, and topped it off with their hacks, and Tristan having just the raw power and raw strength gains and all the stuff like that. You can definitely make an argument that they are either high commandment tier or low archangel tier. I'll go more in depth on that in its own video, like I said, but you can definitely make the argument for them being there. And if you take the idea that, not maybe every single Chaos Knight, but you take the idea that Lance didn't even include Melegaland as a part of Percy's training. He actually started him out with Talisker then leaped all the way up to him himself instead of actually doing Melagallon, you can definitely make the assumption that Percy's also likely, if still the weakest of the knights, also in the same tier as Gawain and Tristan in terms of overall power, just based on how he manhandles Mortlock, and also based on the fact that he clearly states the only person he was able to beat was, or unable to beat, was Lancelot. He beat Pelgard. He beat Ironside. He beat everybody else. It was just Lance that ended up holding him back, meaning most likely, combine that with the idea that the Four Perils should scale above the Chaos Commandments and maybe even Melagallon, probably even Melagallon, just based on their rank, it's very likely that Percy's also in that hierarchy. Well, not hierarchy angel tier, more high commandment, low archangel tier. Reason I say that, we see a base Gallon slash straight through Tarmiel, while admittedly Tarmiel wasn't paying attention to him, but still, if his durability was actually high enough to just no-sell Gallon, Gallon wouldn't be able to do that. And then we see a critical over Gallon get absolutely manhandled by a higher tier archangel like Ludoshel. So I do believe that there's probably some arguments you can make. It's just if you like Wang Gallon's statement about Escador being unable to slash him with Rita. If you go there, then maybe you can get them higher. But once again, I'm going to stick them around low Archangel tier. Leaping from low Archangel tier all the way up to Chaos tier, skip so many different tiers. You skip the high Archangel tier. You skip all of the 7 Deadly Sins, well, not all the 7 Deadly Sins tier. You skip the 7 Deadly Sins low tier. You skip the 7 Deadly Sins mid tier. You skip the, arguably, depending on how much you think Lance scales above a seasoned and powerful warrior like Meliodas, depending on how far you think Lance scales above him, and you think they reach Lance's level over the time skip, scale above even DK Mel and stuff like that. Not DK Mel, DM Mel. DM King Mel, no less. Like, there are definitely things that I think kind of don't want. Like, let's just not do it. I'm gonna go on a whole, like, just don't do it off screen during the time skip. If you're going to make them leap that drastically in power, show it to us. Show it to us, show it to us, show it to us. But the question is, when to show it to us? When you gonna get him up there? Because presumably, once again, just based on the fact that Lance is so powerful as he is, but Arthur, well, being threatened by him a bit, shaking in his little booties at his current level of strength, whatever level he has access to, it's very, very easy to assume that Arthur is still just fine against Lance, even in spite of their, like, very spooky, ooky gooky reactions to each other. It's very likely that Arthur's still fine, and Lance will definitely need backup. So I do believe that Arcash should reach the level of Lance, at least the level he's at in part 1, since that's at least capable of pressing base Chaos King Arthur, and even able to, once Lance is at full power, ooh, you're a little bit strong. But of course the question is, when? How long are we gonna have our other 3 titular characters playing catch up to Lance? Now that's the question. Because the thing is, right, you could do it early into part 2 and just show us it. Because here's the thing. I know some people are going to wonder, well, do they even have the potential to reach Lance? And I'd say everyone except for maybe one of them does, but even then, I assume the last one still does too. The beauty about Percy is that it doesn't seem like there's actually a cap limit on what his strength could become. Like, based on the fact that he's not actually biologically human, he's a life spirit, and the other life spirits actually tend to follow his whims for one reason or another. For some reason, Zaza and the other life spirits do acquiesce to Percy for most of the time, and they can't just, like, force him to return. They kind of need to gaslight him into coming back to join them. It's presumable that Percy has some sort of dominion over the life spirits. And I was kind of memeing about the earlier argument about, well, Percy's a life spirit, so he should transcend anything Lance has to offer. But in a way, Percy's a life spirit. He should be able to transcend anything Lance has to offer by controlling the very forces that give things as powerful as Lance life and fuel their magical strength and abilities. So Percy, with the advent of him being a life spirit, with hope magic, with the fact that he could get the hopes of who knows how many people, and start really jacking and juicing himself up. Not just the demon realm, not just some humans in Leonis, not just the goddess realm, not just Megadozer, not just the fairy realm. Everybody, if he gets all that hope fueled into him, I think it's a very, very, very likely that bro could transcend. He could evolve. He could go beyond and truly reach a level where, yeah, even Lance would be Relative to him. Relative. Because once again, I don't want Lance to necessarily be surpassed, but that's the Lance Glazer in me. But at least caught up to, I'd be perfectly fine. Percy has the perfect excuse, perfect clean line to that. Another character with a pretty clean line to it is Mr. I need to be saved himself. Tristan. Now the thing about Tristan is that he already does clearly have insane potential. Like 16-year-old Mel was not low Archangel tier. Maybe he was. Once again, we don't know. We know so little about Mel's childhood. Same thing was that we know so little about their childhood. And with demon lifespans, who knows? They have still been like babies at 15. At 15 or 16. We have no idea. But presumably, Tristan has that innate same potential to reach that level because we still aren't even 100% sure if Lance is at this level. Full power. Notably, Arthur notes that, yeah, sure, Lance, you're cool and all, but you ain't like him for real. Like you reaching there, bro. Like I can see you tickling the toes of it, but you really ain't at that level yet. But of course, that's before, Lance wiles out a little bit and whips out his full magic and gets Arthur looking like this. But regardless, Percy has a path, and Tristan by proxy has that path because of his parentage. Remember, Tristan is like, I know it's not literal because Chaos created the Supreme Deity and the Demon King. That's like saying any of my drawings are my actual children. I know. But like Tristan's just 2 generations removed from Chaos. He's like he's the most natural occurring variant of Chaos. Period, point blank. Like, he is a hybrid between light and darkness. This is literally Tristan's whole MO. Bro is literally that. He has the darkness from his daddy, the strongest demon ever exists. And if you count the Supreme Deity as a separate species, as she simply created the Goddess Clan and didn't actually be a goddess herself, then Elizabeth, the strongest goddess ever, and Melios, the strongest demon ever, gave birth to Tristan. The Nephilim. Who has what? Oh. Infused light and darkness abilities. What is Chaos? A fusion of immense light and immense darkness. So, like, clearly Tristan definitely has the path. We haven't seen him fully evolve his Demon Mark. We haven't even seen him try to get control over that. We haven't seen him try to properly merge Demon Mark and Triskelion into something ultra crazy. We haven't seen him have a true magic variation, whether or not he has a true magic or not. We do know his magic name is Nova, but who knows? That may not actually be his true magic name. Like, there's so many different ways for Tristan to reach up just based on sheer potential. Sheer potential alone, the man has leaps and bounds he could cross in order to reach the level of the strongest, to really get up there to Lance's level. And here's the thing, I hate to do this, I'm not beating the I don't like Gawain allegations. I'm really not beating the I don't like Gawain allegations. But here's the thing, I do like Gawain. Only thing is, though, she kind of soft caps a little bit too low, just based on what she's presumably based on. Because the thing is, right, Gawain isn't actually Merlin and Escanor's kid, but she is. You know what I mean? Like that's the main thing. She is Merlin and Escanor's kid in spite of not being Merlin and Escanor's kid, because of how her ability functions. Her ability, which is known as Dawn, it's not Fall Sunshine. Like, I don't think there's any other way to put it. Her weapon that we have not seen in ages, Lita, the short-handled, well, not short-handled, I think it's pretty long-handled, but the little short sword she's got, this is a piece of Rita. Like, she's clearly the Escanor allegory. She's clearly that reference. But of course, the thing is, Escanor, even at his peak, was like just above the Prime Demon King. Nothing about that really suggests the Chaos levels. Like, nothing really was popping off with that for real. And it's not like Escanor was one-tapping the Demon King or anything. He basically turned into a JoJo's character for a little bit. On the Demon King for a second. When the Demon King lodged his fist in the one open Escanor's belly, Escanor went that's about it. The Demon King still lived that. And like the Demon King in his Britannic forms, it would actually kind of suppress Escanor in his attacks. So like, hey, looking good. So with that being the case, Gawain just seems to have a lower ceiling than the others, mainly because we know so much about her presumable origin. But the beauty of, since she's also the Merlin allegory, and she has the infinite magic, or could have infinite magic, we have no idea what Gawain actually is. This is actually a genuine plot point. She, once again, suffers from the same benefit that our main man Percy does, in the sense that we just don't know the upper limits of her. We do not. in the sense that, sure, she may kind of look like Escanor. She may kind of have the same abilities as Escanor. She may be based off Escanor. She may be a homunculus on some Full Metal Alchemist type beat. Full Metal Alchemist. But there's still unknowns. So many unknowns when it comes to Gawain, her abilities, how they work, how they function. There's still so much that could be done that I'm even gonna give her the pass, despite it not being as clear or as ironically enough as unclear. Because Tristan's the clear one. This fella right here, he has the clearest path to power just based on his daddy and his mama. But Percy has the second most clear path to power just based on the sheer mystery of the guy and the whole life spirit phenomena and what's implied to be the case with life spirits. Meanwhile, Gawain has a shaky path, but not so shaky that I think it's actually like, oh no, she may be in trouble. She could not ever reach that level. So I think they all can reach Lance's level, but the question is how long? How long do we wait? And I really think it should be like a hot minute. But then again, that's the issue, right? Because if we're playing all this catch up to part 1 Lance, what are we going to do with part 2 Lance? Is it just going to be sad and he's not going to be a part of the plot for a while? Do we turn Lance into an enemy that's like implied at the start of part 2, and then our cast and crew has to catch up to him that way? Like, I'm not exactly sure, but I wouldn't want it to happen quickly. I'd say for our cast to reach Lance's level, it should at bare minimum take another 100 chapters. Maybe another 100. But then again, we just don't know how long the series is going to be, because part 1, I didn't know there were going to be multiple parts, but I sure didn't expect part 1 to end where it did. So who knows how many parts we're going to have, and who knows what kind of damage Naka's going to get into with part 2 in terms of how long it's going to be. But essentially, I'd say until our cast and crew is ready to battle Arthur, they shouldn't be at that level. They just shouldn't. Just because of how high that level is, I don't think they should reach it on their own that succinctly. After many battles, after many conquests, after many trials and tribulations, I'm perfectly fine with them reaching that level. But I do not want them to reach the apex, the next level, oh so soon. However, that's what I think. Please what you guys think in the comment section down below. When would you want our cast and crew to catch up to Lancelot, if at all? Do you think they have the potential at all to even reach his level? How would you want them to reach his level? Personally, I'm a trial and tribulation kind of guy. Like, they just keep getting it through constant growth and struggle. What is that? Struggle and suffering. Like, I want to see them go through that and reach that level, but please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this Vigimo, please leave true potential in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 to keep things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to the very next chapter of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse. Now, let's not waste any more time, and I want to wish you guys a wonderful day. This would happen to be... Oh no! No, you didn't see. Oh no! That's a pen! I was about to say, where'd the darn pencil go? This is that guy's pencil writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Akid's Void. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Igneal. And I'd like to give a chunky old thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another chunka thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchio, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a tractor thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another giga gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.